You're listening to the fourth series of Behind the Rhymes, the mountain we all climb, with me, Maja.
And me, Andrew. I want to be insular, but not in a bad way. Just to shut the outside out and keep my nerves and sanity for another day. According to Maslow, I have everything I need. I can tick off all the boxes. So what does it matter about the opinions and madness? In Sanctuary, I believe. Why do I need to know what's beyond the bunker? Should it really matter to me? Turn off the TV, shred the newspapers, shut down all social media feeds. None of us need to know what's after the bunker's dome, but I'm no prophet, guru or dictator, and I firmly believe each to their own.
Andrew, we're recording this in a nuclear bunker, which was built in the 50s. We are here in Cheshire near Nantwich. Why did you write Beyond the Bunker? This is your third book of poetry.
So it's all about getting away and wanting to be away from people and the madness of the world. And the book itself is mainly about what I consider to be how crazy the world's got. I'm sure I'm not my own in thinking that, and just I don't think I actually can solve the world's problems. So I just want to go and be somewhere where I can get away from
insular.
Yeah.
You're talking about being insular.
Well, yeah.
Why do you want to be insular?
Insular normally is quite bad. It's a bad thing to do because insular can make people, believe certain things without having a wider opinion of other things. Sometimes it's talked about, like in cults, for example, they're quite insular.
Yes.
You're having one person's view. But I want to be insular. That's why I say not in a bad way. I just want to be away from the nonsense, really.
Yet you still try to point out the nonsense. Why? If you've given up, if you want to be insular, why not leave people to their madness?
Because I can't afford to do that, basically, at the moment in my life. I would like to be able to do that. There are still things that I need to be in society for at the moment, I would say. Including my children and my family, So I can't just go away just yet. So I just want to describe this room. So we're in a BBC recording studio in this bunker. I'm guessing it would have been used during war to broadcast radio, primarily, I should imagine. This place was used during World War II as well. I can't imagine there being much TV reception after a nuclear war had happened. So, but the interesting thing about this place is that you were a former BBC World Service employee in the early 2000s.
Well, I wasn't just an employee; I was a journalist.
Okay.
That I think brings things even closer. So when we walked in here, the self-operating mixing board is something that I actually trained on. So it's a bit of history from the mid-90s. Then with digitalization, all of this equipment was replaced. But the equipment that we can see here in this nuclear bunker near Nantwich is the one that was present in Bush House in Aldwych, in the centre of London, where I joined the BBC World Service in '95.
Yeah, and when we walked into this room, I mean, this is the recording part of the room, I guess, because it's got the soundproofing on the walls there, and outside is the other side. I mean, I'm not really familiar with studio technology, and it is quite ironic, I think, that we're recording a podcast on my phone. In a place that is soundproof for recording radio. But you did mention sort of the Scotch tape that I can see in front of us, the cutting of the tape that you used to do, the sort of analog systems before the digital systems.
I just caught that time at the end of its existence, but yes, I can cut tape and broadcast from a self-operating studio. It's very interesting that only this episode would be recorded from a soundproof studio. Our listeners sometimes ask us whether we record from a studio. This is what the sound would be like if we did. We are currently recording our podcast from our apartment in Stafford, from one of our bedrooms. So, that is the difference in quality of sound.
So I'm just going to walk out to the other part of this room where it'll probably sound a little bit more echoing. If Maja, you can describe what this piece of machinery is in front of us.
That is the self-operating mixing board through which all the sound would go. So there would be a technician here. If it was done in the 60s, I would say someone would need to operate the studio for the broadcast to go out to the listeners. I find it fascinating that in a nuclear bunker there is a separate BBC studio.
Did you report on the war at all?
Which war?
Any war?
Yes, I have reported from the Balkan Wars, the Kosovo War, the conflict in Macedonia as well in the late 90s and early 2000s.
So could you imagine what it would be like to report the news after a sort of nuclear war?
No, I can't imagine that. Despite all the documentaries and the fictional movies about the nuclear war, my imagination doesn't stretch that far out. Maybe because I'm an optimist and I believe that people, after the American attack on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, would never again attempt a nuclear attack.
Well, sadly, I don't share your optimism. I mean, here we sit with, nuclear weapons everywhere, even more so than when this bunker was first sort of used for the purpose as a refuge from a nuclear war. And, this phrase of fingers being poised on the triggers, it's for me, there are more fingers on more triggers now, and probably more reasons for these people to press these buttons that will send us back to the Stone Age, I guess.
As you mentioned, I have covered conflicts, and scaring the population is a part of a propaganda war, which is certainly going on now. But deep inside, I do not actually believe that any human, regardless of which country they're leading, would press a button. Do you believe that people should be left to pursue what they believe in? Is there a need to pass the moral and ethical values that we have to the new generation, or perhaps they should be left to their own devices to figure out their own moral and ethical codes?
As a parent, I feel it's my responsibility to teach my children morals and ethics that I believe. I'm not sure it's my job as a member of the human race to teach other people what they should and shouldn't believe. I've taught my kids what I thought was good morals. I sometimes question whether making them polite has really prepared them for an impolite world and society that we live in. So I'm not interested really in pressing my views on the wider public.
Do you believe in your own moral and ethical?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe in that. Yes, and I know I'm not alone. I know I've met other people that believe the same. So I know I'm not on my own in believing those things.
Now that we know what Beyond the Bunker is about, would you like to read the poem for our listeners again?
I want to be insular, but not in a bad way. Just to shut the outside out, to keep my sanity and nerves for another day. According to Maslow, I have everything I need. I can tick off all the boxes. So what does it matter about the opinions and madness? In sanctuary, I believe. Why do I need to know what's beyond the bunker? Should it really matter to me? Turn off the TV, shred the newspapers, shut down all social media and news feeds. None of us need to know what's after the bunker's dome. But I'm no prophet, guru or dictator, and I firmly believe each to their own.
You've been listening to Behind the Rhymes, the mountain we all climb, with me, Maja.
And me, Andrew. You can find all the poems from this series in my new book, Beyond the Bunker, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Write Poetry.
The book is produced by our publishing company, Anarchy. And if you want to order it, contact us at vonperestproductions@outlook.com.
Where you can also contact us about other things, maybe even including a chat about the state of the world.